Bear down, fam. The injury nobody wanted just got confirmed out of Hallis Hall. Braxton Jones went down, and Caleb Williams' left tackle spot is a question mark again. And I'll tell you which ex-Lions vet Ryan Poles should be signing right now. Cole KMET is staying in Chicago, per Press Taylor, but that versatility might be hiding Poles' real plan for October. And ESPN's Adam Schefter confirmed exactly how many weeks Kobe Bryant is out, with a detail tying straight back to KMET nobody saw coming. Monsters of the Midway, let's get into it. All right, let's talk through this calmly, because I know the second this hit social media, everybody panicked. But first we need to understand how we got here, because this didn't come out of nowhere. Coming out of the offseason, the Bears' offensive line was sold as the strength of this team. They extended Darnell Wright, they poured high picks into the last 2 drafts, and the story heading into camp was simple. This line was going to protect Caleb Williams like he's never been protected in Chicago. Ozzie Trapilo was one of the young pieces of that project, someone competing directly for the starting left tackle job after a solid rookie season. Then, before camp really got rolling, Trapilo went down for basically the rest of the year. Ryan Poles never gave an exact timeline at his end-of-season press conference. He just said it would be, quote, deep into next season before Trapilo could return. But let's be honest with each other here. When a general manager talks like that about a torn patellar tendon, in real football language, that means don't count on the guy for the opener, and probably not for a good chunk of the year either. That shifted the entire board. Suddenly, Braxton Jones, coming off a 20-25 season that was mediocre at best, became the default favorite to start week 1 protecting Caleb's blindside. And the fact that he was splitting first-team reps with Kieran Amagaji and Jedrick Wills Jr. already told me Ben Johnson and this staff weren't fully sold on him. When a coach spreads first-team reps across 3 different bodies at the same spot, that's usually because nobody's actually won the job yet. Then, on Thursday, Jones left practice with an injury. Reports say he avoided something serious, and I hope that holds up. But honestly, it doesn't matter to me if this specific injury turns out to be nothing. The bigger issue is still sitting right there. This position, the most important one on any modern offensive line when your quarterback is constantly rolling to his left, is still a giant question mark. Why Taylor Decker is the obvious move. This is where I, as a fan, start yelling at the screen to get Taylor Decker on the phone right now. Decker spent his entire career with the Detroit Lions. He left that organization on bad terms after they couldn't agree on a new deal, and he's still unsigned this deep into the summer. Why is a left tackle with that resume still available? Because his projected market value sits around $21 million a year, and nobody in their right mind is paying that this late in August. That's exactly where the Bears come in. They don't have much cap room. We're talking roughly $8 million according to Over the Cap, but they don't need to pay Decker $21 million. They need to convince him to lower those expectations and sign a 1-year, incentive-based, prove-it deal. If Decker genuinely wants to play in 2026, and everything points that way, this is probably his last real shot at a starting role before the market moves on without him. And here's the comparison nobody's talking about loud enough. Decker once said he'd never play for a divisional rival like the Bears or the Packers. But the Lions treated him poorly in the end, didn't extend him on the terms he felt he earned, and now he'd get the chance to reunite with his old offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, in Chicago. That's not just a roster move. That's the chance to face the Lions twice a year. On the other side, protecting a rival quarterback. On the same line, Detroit let walk out the door. The pattern that worries me about Ryan Poles, I'm going to be critical here because it's warranted. This isn't just a random injury problem. It's a pattern. Ryan Poles has talked a big game about investing in the offensive line with big extensions and high draft picks, but the depth behind the starters is still thin. When you lose your top backup tackle for the entire year, and your immediate plan B is a guy who already lost the starting job last season, that's a planning failure, not bad luck. And this isn't the first time this front office has come up short on depth at a critical position when health enters the equation. We saw it in the secondary last season. We're seeing it now on the offensive line. I could be wrong, but this already burned me once, watching a young Bears quarterback run for his life behind a patchwork line. And I don't want to relive that movie with Caleb Williams and what's supposed to be his breakout year. Neither of Jones's current backups is clearly better than he is. Amagaji hasn't shown anything consistent on an NFL field yet. Wills Jr. is a low-risk bet with a low ceiling too. That's exactly the kind of situation where you bring in a proven veteran, even for 1 year, to stabilize things while your young guys keep developing. My honest opinion here, and I know not everybody's going to agree, I would take a mediocre but consistent left tackle over a 3-man rotation experiment every single week. I've already watched that movie. I don't want to watch it again with a quarterback who's just now finding his level. My conditional prediction: if Jones can't get back to full speed over the next couple weeks of camp, and if Decker is genuinely willing to sign below his original market value, I think the Bears make this call before August is over. I don't think they wait until it's a full-blown Week 1 emergency. Poles has already shown he can move fast when the market lets him. What I can't promise you is that Decker is still the Pro Bowl caliber player he was a few years back. He's got some mileage on him, and he's not an elite left tackle in 2026. But stability, even unspectacular stability, beats the uncertainty we've got at that spot right now. And protecting Caleb Williams is non-negotiable for this franchise. Not after everything it's cost to get this development project to this point. Another thing worth watching in the next few practices is simple. Who actually gets the first team reps? If Amagaji starts locking that job down in a clear way, the urgency to call Decker drops quite a bit. But if the coaching staff keeps rotating bodies the way they have the last couple weeks, that indecision by itself is the most honest signal that this front office still doesn't trust what it has in-house to solve this on its own. This is something I've been waiting months for someone in this organization to actually address head-on. Cole Kmet has been stuck in trade rumors since the 2025 draft. First, it was because the Bears used the 10th pick on Colston Loveland. Then it was because in the 2026 draft, they spent pick 69 on Sam Roush, another tight end. 2 straight tight ends drafted in 2 straight years, and the easy conclusion for every analyst became, Kmet's expendable. Sell him. I broke down those trade simulations myself on this channel. ESPN's Ben Solak built an offer with the Chiefs, sending a 2027 third-round pick for Kmet, plus a 2027 fifth-rounder. 3 other proposals came out around the same time. The Ravens offering just a 2028 third-rounder, the Panthers with a mix of day 2 and day 3 picks, and the Dolphins sending back nothing more than 4th and 7th round selections. None of those 4 offers brought an actual player back to Chicago. And my take was always the same. None of those packages come close to what Kmet is worth right now to a team that's genuinely in win-now mode, coming off winning the NFC North and finishing as the conference's number 2 seed. ESPN's own Courtney Cronin put it plainly. Barring a package that brings back a real need, like a pass rusher, it doesn't benefit the Bears to move Kmet before the 2026 season starts. I agree with that completely. This week, offensive coordinator Press Taylor stepped up and explained exactly why the club still sees Kmet as a major part of the offense, and what he said confirms what I'd already suspected, what Press Taylor is really saying. The quote is short, but it says a lot. Kmet can line up at fullback, he can stay in line, he can motion out, he can stand in open space. That's not a description of just any tight end. That's the description of a chess piece a coordinator can move around freely without changing the personnel grouping the defense sees at the line, and that's pure gold for confusing opposing defenses. Let's understand the real hierarchy here. Loveland is the rising star, the guy who can line up as a big slot receiver and also block when he needs to. Kmet brings that extra versatility of being able to play fullback and move all over the field. And Roush, the third-round rookie, is here specifically to block in line, without loading him up with too much responsibility in the passing game from day one. When you put all 3 on the field together, the combinations multiply. You can have a fullback and a slot receiver at the same time. You can have 2 classic tight ends, you can have Kmet in the backfield, Loveland split out wide, and Roush blocking in line. Every single one of those combinations forces the opposing defensive coordinator to guess what's coming before the snap, and tactically, that's exactly the kind of chaos Ben Johnson wants to create. And this isn't just my read on it. Ryan Poles himself, on draft day, was crystal clear about why they spent another third-round pick on the position. He said nothing changes for Cole, that their feelings for him don't change, and that the Bears are a top 5 team in the league running 12 and 13 personnel packages. That line, top 5 and 12 and 13 personnel, is really the whole story. It's not generic preseason coach speak. It's the general manager confirming with actual numbers that the 3 tight end plan isn't a whim, it's an offensive identity that's already working. And there's a financial detail behind all of this that almost nobody brings up. Kmet restructured his contract, so his cap number for 2026 is relatively low. That means keeping him on the roster barely costs Ryan Poles anything in cap space, which lowers the urgency to sell him for day 2 or day 3 picks that, honestly, don't move the needle for a team that's one step away from genuinely competing for the conference. My honest read, with a little skepticism. Now let me put my skeptic hat on for a second, because I can't just swallow every word from an offensive coordinator talking about his own players like it's gospel. Coaches, in the preseason, almost always talk up every player still on the roster. It's part of the job. So the question I keep asking myself is this genuinely the 2026 game plan? Or is Press Taylor simply keeping Kmet's trade value high, heading into the October deadline, in case Poles decides to move him later? Honestly, I think it can be both at once. Those aren't mutually exclusive. The plan to use all 3 tight ends in multiple combinations is real, and they're going to test it out in the first few games. But if at some point this season Loveland proves he can carry the position by himself, and Roush develops enough as a blocker, I wouldn't be shocked at all if Poles takes a reasonable offer for Kmet in October. especially one that brings back real pass rush help. Ryan Poles isn't a sentimental general manager. He's someone who's constantly evaluating the value of every asset at the right moment, and we've already seen him operate that way before. For now, though, the message is clear. KMET isn't expendable in the season opening plan, and that 3 tight end versatility could turn into one of the quiet advantages of this offense in 2026, something opposing defenses still aren't respecting enough in their game plans. My honest opinion, so it's on record, if Poles trades KMET in October just for picks, without bringing back real pass rush help, that's going to look like a mistake to me. This roster doesn't need more draft capital for 2027 and 2028 right now. It needs to win in 2026. This is the one I like telling the least, but it's also the one that changed the most since I first put this script together. So let's correct the record live, exactly as it happened. Kobe Bryant, the new safety they brought in to reinforce that secondary, got carted off the practice field a few days ago. And this isn't just any signing. Bryant arrived as a free agent from Seattle, a Super Bowl champion, on a 3-year, $40 million deal, specifically to replace Kevin Byard and Jaquan Brisker in a secondary the Bears decided to overhaul almost completely this offseason. When I first drafted this script, the organization hadn't released an official timeline yet. That's changed. ESPN, through Adam Schefter, confirmed the actual diagnosis: a hyperextended knee, a bone bruise, and a small fracture. The estimated timeline is 8 to 10 weeks, which puts him out well into the regular season. It's not a season-ending injury, but it's also not the minor scare some of the early reports suggested. And here's the detail that connects directly to the story before this one, and honestly felt almost too on the nose when I read it. Bryant got hurt in a one-on-one drill, going up against none other than Cole Kmet. The same Kmet we just talked about. The whole secondary, not just Bryant. Here's what actually worries me, and it's the biggest correction I have to make today. Bryant isn't the only one. Terrell Smith got hurt at practice on August 3rd. Dallas Flowers got hurt on August 6th and landed straight on injured reserve, done for the season. Gervarius Owens got carted off that same day and ended up released with an injury designation. And Kyler Gordon, the starting nickelback, hasn't stepped on the field all offseason while he continues to rehab. 4 different defensive backs, 4 different names, and about 5 days of camp. That's not one bad moment. That's a stretch that makes you ask whether there's something structural going on, whether it's workload, practice style, or just bad luck stacking up. Some Chicago analysts are already pointing at this secondary's history of soft tissue injuries under defensive coordinator Dennis Allen going back to last season, though in fairness, most of this week's injuries are knee-related, not soft tissue, so I don't want to force a connection that isn't actually proven yet. What I can say for certain is that the depth in that unit emptied out in a matter of days. Credit where it's due, the Bears reacted fast. They signed undrafted rookie Marlon Sewell just 1 day after Bryant's injury. Then they brought in Xavier Woods, a 9-year veteran who played under defensive backs coach Al Harris in Dallas, and added Brandon Hill and William Wright to keep the 90-man roster full. That kind of quick response is exactly what you want from a front office that doesn't want the hole getting any bigger. What actually gives me some peace of mind, honestly, is how rookie Dylan Thieneman is handling this, the first-round pick, number 25 overall in this same draft. Instead of panicking or waiting for someone to solve the problem for him, he's already actively looking for who to lean on. And he found the right guy. Cam Lewis, Bryant's listed backup, a player heading into his 8th season in the league. Thieneman put it in his own words. He's got a lot of experience. He's going into his 8th year now, and he knows how to play the back end of the defense well. And the most important part? They're locker room neighbors. That day-to-day closeness, that familiarity you build just from being around each other, translates into on-field trust faster. My honest opinion on all of this, I'm not going to pretend this solves the underlying problem. A first-round rookie leaning on an 8th-year veteran is a good sign of maturity, but it doesn't replace having your $40 million starting safety healthy and available. Preseason games are still weeks away, so there's time for some of these situations to turn out better than expected. But my honest take is this. When you stack the secondary's full uncertainty on top of the left tackle, uncertainty we talked about at the top of this video, a pattern starts to show up that genuinely worries me as a critical fan of this team. This roster has depth on paper at several spots, but when health fails, and this week it failed in 4 different places in the same unit, the real quality behind the starters is still unproven. And in a season where the goal is to genuinely compete for the NFC, there's no room to improvise on 3 or 4 different fronts at the same time. I do want to give credit on one specific thing. Ben Johnson stepping in personally to shut down the speculation around Bryant's timeline instead of letting outside reports set the narrative inside the locker room is exactly the kind of communication a room needs in a moment like this. That matters more than it looks like in a roster that needs to stay calm in August. One more thing I keep coming back to. Bryant signed that $40 million deal specifically because the Bears wanted a ball hawk who could change the identity of that secondary after the departures of Byard and Brisker. Losing him for 2 months doesn't erase that plan, but it does put real pressure on a rookie safety class and a patchwork group of veterans to hold the fort until he's back. That's a lot to ask in year one of a new scheme under Dennis Allen, and how this group performs in September is going to tell us a lot more about the state of this defense than anything we saw in June minicamp. So there you have it, fam. 3 stories, 1 connecting thread. The health of this roster is going to decide whether Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson's year actually takes off or turns into another what could have been. Left tackle is still a question mark, and Taylor Decker is sitting right there waiting for the phone to ring. KMET is still a key piece of this offense, at least for now, and that 3 tight end versatility could be a quiet weapon. And the secondary doesn't have one scare, it has 4 different defensive backs down in 5 days, while rookie Thieneman is doing exactly the right thing, leaning on the guy he needs to lean on. I still believe in this roster, but believing isn't the same as being naive, and as a critical fan, I have to tell you what I see. Unproven depth at 3 different spots, right when this team's margin for error is smaller than ever. That's my honest read, and I'd rather give it to you straight now than have you find out in October when it's too late to do anything about it. Bear down, always. If this breakdown helped you out, hit that like button, subscribe, and tell me down in the comments. Do you trust Poles to fix left tackle by bringing in Decker, or should the Bears stick with what they've already got at home? I'm reading every single one of them. See you in the next one.